Welcome to Black Health, a talk show discussing medical issues impacting and afflicting the Black community. Now introducing our host, Dr. Michelle Kirwan.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Black Health. My name is Dr. Michelle Kirwan, also affectionately referred to as Dr. K by many. I am a board-certified pediatrician practicing in the Miami-Dade Broward area for almost 20 years. I also serve as the Chief Medical Officer for a federally qualified health center in Miami Gardens called the Pediatric and Family Health and Wellness Center, and I am pleased to host Black Health. So today is the first day of April, and while many know this day as a great day to pull a prank on somebody for April Fool's Day, I would also invite you to know that it is the first day of National Minority Health Month. What better time to kick off this Black Health series, right? As noted by the Department of Human and Health Services, Offices of Minority Health, this month, and I quote, is aimed at raising awareness about the health disparities that continue to affect people from racial and ethnic minority groups and encourage action through health education, early detection, and control of disease complications. And here to start us off with National Minority Health Month is Dr. Cheryl Holder, a very well-known and very well-respected physician who has fiercely advocated for the health of our community for many years. Good afternoon, Dr. Holder. Happy belated Doctor's Day.
Same to you, and thank you very much. I'm so honored to be the first guest of this wonderful show, because I know it will be, because you're hosting.
Thank you, and I hope it will be. Please, Cheryl, Dr. Holder, introduce yourself to our viewers. Your resume is very lengthy. I didn't even dare try to attempt an introduction.
That's what happens when you get the 35 years being in Dade County providing care. I'm a board-certified internist and HIV specialist, but I see my primary focus has been, since I've been medical director in the Jackson system for many years, and I'm now in academia teaching the next generation of medical students, I see my role in improving the health of the community by finding the main issues, getting workable solutions, and really pushing the education and pushing the policy change to get us to that good health. I always say I want everybody to live as long as my grandfather, if not longer, to almost 100 years old, wow, in good health and happy.
Excellent. Well, we are happy to have you. And so Dr. Holder, the theme for Minority Health Month is Give Your Community a Boost. And it is focused on the disproportionate burden of COVID-19 on racial and ethnic minority communities. Why is it, do you think, that Black and Brown communities have been and still are tragically impacted by COVID?
Yeah, Black and Brown communities, this hasn't changed. This has been, I think everyone who's been in this country for forever knows that when white America gets a cold, poor people and Black folks get pneumonia. Mm-hmm. So it's not surprising that people who have been traditionally oppressed, who have had poor health outcomes, because everybody knows if you work in the Black community, everybody's working 2-3 jobs. We don't have the best access to healthcare. Our communities tend to be more polluted. We're under a lot of stress, and we don't have access to immediate primary care, preventive care. And that just builds up over time. And with that time, so when something comes at you, you're not at 100%, so it's going to beat you down. And so we see this repeatedly. We saw it with HIV, we saw it with tuberculosis, we saw it with the first flu pandemic, 18 something that was. Mm-hmm. So this isn't new, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. With the rampant spread of COVID in the Black communities, some of it is due to lack of knowledge or misinformation. How do you think we as medical professionals do a better job of educating and informing our community?
Yeah, misinformation is one of the factors we see, and that's when people spread news that they think is true. Then we also saw something that's even more dangerous, which is disinformation, where folks deliberately spread the wrong information. And at the beginning of this pandemic, there was a basic thing that this is okay. It's just like the flu, which is disinformation. And you could probably dominate this virus, and made it feel as if you were less than if you didn't find a way to do this naturally. And that was one of the gravest disinformation that happen in our community. And when you combine that with folks who are spreading these stories about, oh, I heard this things did so and so, when you combine those together with a group of people who have don't have ready access to healthcare for generations, so their health understanding may not be at the level that it is to tackle something so new, so vicious, and with a treatment that seems like, when we talked about vaccine, it seemed like it was something space age. And so when you come with generations of mistrust of the health system, which is
Mhm.
valid,
Yeah.
legitimate, and if you've been in this health system long enough as a person who don't have resources, person who's subjected to racism, it is natural and protective that you're a little bit cautious in your decision making. So you put all of that together. So I think as health professionals, our goal is to understand this and respect it and work from that level with our populations. We don't have that many Black physicians in this country. We're talking about 50,000 out of a million. So
Yeah.
most of the healthcare is not given by Black doctors. So, where I feel our health profession has to be is starting with our providers and having them understand, how do we educate a population that comes with some areas that our society has not fulfilled. And not that the community is ignorant, not that they're poor decision makers, not that they deserve this, but looking at it, that what have we as a society done that has not helped our population to be able to take this information, process it in a positive manner, and do whatever you can to make the best health decision. So I think our profession and the medical profession has been lacking in that regard. So the population that was so impacted may not have had the ready responses, the actual support that would make them able to protect themselves and their families against coronavirus.
Absolutely. I know for me, it's been a difficult sell, the vaccine in particular. I had a patient, a 16-year-old, who I was trying to convince to vaccinate. And she told me that she heard on a TikTok video that I just had to stop her right there. I said, I'm standing here in front of you, you're a pediatrician, and you're telling me that you're taking information from a TikTok video.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of imitated one of the TikTok dances. And I said, so that TikTok, are we talking about the same TikTok? In the end, I was able to get her to vaccinate, but it for me, it's been a real struggle. What type of resistance do you hear from about the vaccine from
Yeah,
your
I'm
patients, and what do
hearing
you
this
what do you
the
try to
same
tell them to?
resistance, but I tell folks this isn't new. I go through this with flu
Yeah.
vaccine, I go through an
Yes.
HPV vaccine. So it's the same basic foundational issues we have with understanding how vaccines work, understanding why we need to protect ourselves, and understanding that maybe we can, as a society, step out and trust a little bit more, that we've moved beyond the 400 years of abuse, that we've moved beyond that. So maybe you can trust my information a little bit more. So I hear the same things, that they heard it on TikTok, they heard it on Facebook, their friend told them. And of course, they always have a friend who had the worst reaction.
Yes.
Yes, my sister, cousin, brother, whoever, similar to the Nicki Minaj story. I
Yes.
get it all the time from my family, from my patients, where somebody had the worst reaction in the world. But when I tease it down, I say, talk to me. Let me see now. What's the element of truth in that? Because I know there is some factual information what you heard. So then let me try and dispel or give you some other advice. But it's not easy, but it's expected. And I
Mhm.
am not upset by it. And if you end up getting coronavirus, my next thing is get the treatment, get the treatment.
Mhm.
I don't think you deserve this illness. So even though the misinformation and disinformation and the legacy of oppression has led you down here, I don't think this is deserved. So I still try and help you. And every
Mhm.
visit, every patient who tells me they're not taking, I still go through it again. Now let's talk about it some more. Where did you get your information? Why don't you try this other source? I tell them, I come straight out and said it's a bad decision, because
Wow.
anything that can help your body to build up the fighting power will make a difference. I use the football analogy because everybody in Florida loves football. And I'm
Well,
like,
What would that be?
Yeah, I said, now which line, when you're out there and they're lined up and they got a 300-pound linebacker coming at them, they don't run against that linebacker without a helmet, without pads, without some skills, without being built up. Now, if you look at the end, I didn't say that he's going to prevent you from getting hit. So this vaccine may not prevent the infection, but when that linebacker hits you, because you have all this protection, you get up again.
I love that analogy. I'm going to
So,
use that, Dr. Holder. Thank you.
I mean, that's how vaccines work. That's how vaccines have worked from the day one, from the African slave who told the story of in Africa, how the first inoculation was done in the villages with the cowpox. So this is old history that came out of Africa that we've built on. And of course we should get better. I mean, why should we stay back in old 15th century type work when we got computers and we have so much? I mean, kids nowadays are way advanced than their parents were. So why can't we do that in medicine and in science? And also, what's wrong with fast? You know, everybody wants to get rich fast. Everybody wants to do everything faster. So what's wrong with us coming up with a vaccine fast? When did fast become a bad word?
Exactly.
So I challenge them to think about how things are now stigmatized and why people would want to stigmatize something that's done quickly that benefits millions of people and saves lives. There's a little hokey doke going on there, whatever that rope-a-dope. I never get those things right, but whatever that thing is.
I don't either.
Catfishing or something of the sort.
Yes, something like that.
Something of the sort. Something is happening that's causing our society to look at something that was done to save millions of people and somehow cast it as a negative. Whenever that happens, you got to think twice.
Yeah. As a pediatrician, vaccines all day. I'm trying to sell vaccine, sell vaccine, sell vaccine. And it's becoming an increasingly tough sell.
Yeah.
And I admire your determination. I try, but for me, it's almost a daily battle now. And I sometimes get battle fatigue, and I just have to say, okay, you know, I'll pray for you then. I don't say that to them, but this is what I'm thinking. All that's left is maybe to pray for you, because they're really refusing vaccines now, and especially the COVID vaccination. And as you said, it's hitting our communities really.
Right. Because we don't have the luxury of living in a 5,000 square feet mansion and having a life where that you're not going to expose to coronavirus. So all these folks talking about, I'm strong and I didn't get it. You didn't get it because you live in a beautiful community with very few people. Your family may not have any kids, because kids bring out all sorts of viruses. And you're eating well. You got access to everything. So,
and you can quarantine on the other side of your house when somebody gets sick. So I've seen a lot of that in the Black community. They cannot quarantine because the house
they
is
share
so
one bathroom.
Exactly.
And the virus will be in the bathroom. It comes in the feces. It comes all over. So let's face it, it's very difficult when you're living six or 10 people in a 1 or 2 bedroom place with one bathroom, that virus not to get you. And it's in the air.
I saw something come out on, I believe on CNN today, that said it only takes a droplet the size of a red blood cell to infect somebody. They were doing studies actually infecting patients who volunteered to be infected, and that's all it took. Imagine that. That's nothing.
That's nothing. So when you think of where most of the poorer Black folks work, they take public transportation. They live in homes with a lot of people. The churches are small, because I've been in the churches since the pandemic doing education. And I go into some of these churches and the ventilation is not very good because the churches are small. The ventilation is poor. I'm like, this coronavirus is floating everywhere. So it's not a surprise that if you get a high enough dose, and the dose doesn't have to be a lot, especially with the new variants, you're going to get infected. Now, getting infected is one thing. Who gets sick when you get infected? And that's what I tell folks got to know. If you know you're overweight, you're obese, diabetes, high blood pressure, stressed out, cancer, HIV, males, you've hit a lot of the Black community. So you're going to get sicker. So why can't we get our bodies with I tell them, the guns and ammunition, the antibodies, the padding like the dolphins wear, get us ready so when we get this virus, we can fight it off and survive. And lots of folks think that they're going to make it through. And I said, you might make it through, but let's say you get sick and you don't have disability insurance. Who's going to make that money for the family? And I've had too many patients who are not able to work. They've now lost their apartments. The family is split up. They survived COVID, but it took them months to get back on their feet. And in that time, they collapsed.
Wow.
So the vaccine, two with the booster, would have just made them have that little cold that everybody talked about.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part that I've seen, that our population, our community has paid such a price. The death, the disability, and while you're recovering, the loss of that economic power, which meant your family suffered.
Very well said. Very well said. And it just strikes me, you said earlier that patients have a story about, the grandmother, sister's brother, who had this horrible reaction. And I hear the same thing. And it just shocks me that have you looked at the millions of people across the world who have not had a bad reaction? So I kind of liken it to flying and say, do you get on a plane? What makes you know that that plane is not going to go down? You're taking a risk. Do you get in your car every day and drive to work? You're taking a risk. Every day we take risks.
Yeah.
But you got to weigh, the statistics. What is the likelihood that you're going to get into a car accident? And what is the gain when you get to work? Your employment, you pay your mortgage, etc. What is the gain when you get on that plane? If it's a work trip or a vacation, there's a gain to it. And you just have to, you don't want to actually, play with your life with vaccines, but the risk is far less than what people think. And if they would look at the millions that have been vaccinated successfully and that they're healthy and they're fine, and concentrate more on that and take that plunge. But it's difficult.
Yeah. That's what I do the same thing. And many times when they tell me that they get a reaction after the vaccine, I said, well, the vaccine, when your body saw that vaccine, it didn't know it wasn't the vaccine. It thought it was the virus. Yeah. So can you imagine if that person got the virus? They'd have been knocked out and dead.
Absolutely.
So again,
that's a good point.
I'm like, that vaccine saved that person's life.
Yeah.
Because sooner or later, most people are going to get exposed to this virus. It's just the way this infection works. It's so easy to transmit. And everybody in the world has never seen it when it came on. And that's over 7 billion people. So that virus has to go through 7 billion people before we get enough protection. So
talk to me about the new strain that is coming out. How do we medically protect our community against this newer strain of Omicron that apparently is more transmissible?
Yeah, it's expected. And this is where I say folks should you don't need a degree, an MD, to figure out that a new strain is going to be even better than the first one, because all our kids, every generation, I think the kids get better than the last generation. So why shouldn't the kids of the first coronavirus not be better than the parent? So this is more transmissible. However, it looks what has been happening, because so many people are infected already, we do have some protection. See, once you get an infection, your body develops these cells that can say, oh, I see a stranger circulating in my body. Let me go attack it. Luckily, as the variants get more infectious, they haven't changed that much that the body still recognizes that it's foreign and I can defend against it. So we have not had the severe disease as you would expect. We also have so much more knowledge. Masks work. I don't know where my mask is, but I tell everybody the mask is the only way. Oh, I had to leave camera, but it's so important. The mask is the only way to really protect you from something blowing into your nose and attaching into the cells that it loves to attach into, which is right in the top of the nose, into the back, into the throat, attaches beautifully. So put something on that covers it up. So masks work. And the more there is circulating, the more you need your mask. And this is where you got to use your brains again. And all my
Absolutely.
patients are super brilliant. I tell them, I don't know where all this smarts come from, but they
I
know
love
so much.
it.
So I'm
And I
like,
see you have a KN95 mask there, which
yes,
is
I'm
great.
like,
But I
get the
always tell my
best
patients,
mask.
whatever you can put on, if you can't get access to a KN95, here's one. But if you don't, when this one runs out, just put something on.
Something on, because it's
Something
common
on.
sense. Your grandmother told you
Absolutely.
forever to cover up your nose when you cough and
Exactly.
sneeze. You don't need an MD to tell you. If this stuff is floating in the air, you can't see it, it hooks on, it's teeny, teeny like a blood cell. Of course, you put something on to block. Now, when do you put it on is always the difficult part. If you're outside, empty, it's not going to float in and cause an infection. But if it is indoors, and
Yes.
you don't have proper ventilation and it's crowded, I always wear my mask because I don't want to get infected, because you can have asymptomatic infection. I don't want to get
That's
infected and infect my patients. I
hmm
don't want to get infected and infect my 92-year-old mother.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm always in a mask. Not that I'm so much afraid of the infection if it came in me, because I'm fully vaccinated and I eat right, exercise. I get all the protection going, and I pray that if I get it, I don't get very sick. But even if I get it, I'm going to go get the treatment.
Mhm.
But I don't want to pass it on to others. And that's
Yeah.
another reason that I wear my mask,
Yeah,
because
I
not
work for
everybody.
that reason. And also, I want to be able to be around my parents. They're getting older.
Exactly.
I want to be able to be around my patients, and not
Hmm.
have to close the clinic down because now I've spread it through the clinic. So there's a lot to wearing the
Yeah.
mask.
So that's what
Another
I tell,
question.
yeah, folks to do in their personal lives. If you're in a
Mhm.
crowded house and you have an 80 or a 65 or elder person in your home, protect them.
Yes.
That's
Mhm.
just that simple. It's just part of being the responsibility of your family, responsibility to our community and our population out here. So, what can we do for our community? Protect each other and
Absolutely.
accept how this virus is transmitted, and accept that we can find ways around it.
So let me ask you this. I've heard this. Is there a difference between the Black community and the general public regarding the effectiveness of the vaccine and the booster shots? I've heard that myth, I should say, floating around. So can you speak to that?
Uh, Based on the way the physiology works, they should, if the vaccine is done properly, it works. Now, the reason that you may see that people will still get infected after they've been vaccinated and may not do as well is the underlying diseases. The data clearly shows that as a percentage of the population, Black folks do have more chronic diseases. So, more diabetes, more obesity. I don't know any Black person who doesn't know somebody in their family with diabetes, doesn't know somebody in their family with high blood pressure, doesn't know somebody in their close relatives or friends with some sort of chronic disease. So
And why
that
is it that
means
we are disproportionately affected by these chronic
the
diseases?
same issues. We work too hard, we get poor food, we don't get proper jobs, we live in poor, polluted environments, and we don't exercise properly because we don't have access to good exercise routine. If I had a
Mhm.
job that allowed me to work 40 hours a week, paid me well, when I came home, I could go to the health club or I could just walk around my neighborhood. Many of my patients, which are Black women, when they finish one job, they're off to another job to pay
Yeah.
those bills. There's no time to say, I'm going to exercise. Taking care of yourself takes time. And many of the folks that I work with don't. So it's not that they decided one day to eat badly and never exercise and never, and also sleep. A lot of our community just don't sleep well. And sleep is crucial to maintaining a good immune function, maintaining proper weight, and really being able to function in our society. So that's why I see all the diseases that we have in our communities. And it's most of them are preventable if we could get better jobs, less pollution, better policies that,
Yes.
and also stop some of the racism. Because when many of my young people go for jobs, they hear, oh, you don't speak Spanish or you don't do
Yes.
this.
Mhm.
And rather than looking at the strengths that they bring to these jobs, they're hearing all the negatives and are not getting the jobs. And when we do get the jobs, Black folks make 70, maybe 60, 70 cents on the dollar. So we're working for the same jobs a whole lot with less money. So if we could solve more of those, we would see better health overall, because then my women would be able to eat better, do some
Yes.
yoga, exercise, do all the things that we see richer people do.
Yeah, and eat better is a big one. In many of
Huge.
the Black and brown communities, there are no good grocery stores.
None.
And then if your employment doesn't pay you enough to really be able to afford, then your good food, healthy food, then you're using WIC, and then the food that comes through WIC is just, is very unhealthy food. So it's unfortunate that this is, the statistics of the Black community is not
Right.
the high diabetes, hypertension, obesity. It's not a ranking that we would necessarily be proud
Yeah.
of.
And especially with our children, the minute you get children hooked on salt and fat and sugar, it is hard to break.
Yes,
And that's what
yes,
most of the poorer communities have access to. And so,
yes.
what used to be traditional foods that people eat, the kids are not used to it anymore.
Hmm. Well, I
Which,
think,
oh my
okay, I think
goodness,
you're
what
back.
happened?
You
Okay,
froze. You froze for a second. I think you're back now.
I got lost there.
Yeah.
Am I back on?
You're back. You're back.
Okay. Yeah, so that's our big problem: nutrition, exercise,
Mhm.
pollution, and that's where we have to fight as a community. So that's where we have to start.
And then when you take all of that and put COVID on
I'm
top of it,
sorry, my sound is not, I'm not hearing it at all.
okay.
I don't know what happened.
All right. That's all right. We'll go ahead and wrap up. Dr. Holder, it has been a pleasure having you and speaking with you. We trust you will come back at another time and bless us with more of your knowledge here at Black Health. Thank you to everybody who took the time out of their schedule today to join us and to listen. And please send in any health topics that you would like to hear about in the future. I'll see you on the next episode of Black Health. And remember, your health is your wealth. Have a great day, everybody.